The Lakers seem to be in complete disarray after another stunning final score. The Nuggets can't stop throwing the ball to Nikola Jokic even if they wanted to. And should the Warriors go star hunting or bolster the bench? That's all ahead today on Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being an everydayer with us here on Locked On NBA. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you're going to get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. I'm Doug Branson, host of Locked On Hornets, and your Shot Clock Sherpa, guiding you through the NBA's biggest stories with the help of Locked On's local experts. And with me, as always, are two of Locked On's premier national NBA experts from the Locked On Nuggets podcast and senior writer for the Action Network. We've got Matt Moore. And from the Locked On Bulls podcast, Hayes. And Hayes is the birthday boy today. Congratulations, Hayes. Finish this sentence for me. All I want in the NBA for my birthday is
the Bulls to be championship contenders again, and it's not happening. So,
well, you can't always get what you want on your birthday, unfortunately. But we'll try to think of something else. Okay, let's talk about the Los Angeles Lakers. They are surrounded right now by more questions than answers after a humiliating 134-93 loss to the Miami Heat. LeBron and AD labeled the performance, quote, embarrassing. I guess my first question is a simple one. Lakers, what the hell, Matt?
I mean, they've quit. Like this was quit. It does not get any more quitty than this one. This was the quittiest quit that you've ever seen quit. It was embarrassing. You know, and for LeBron AD to talk about it that way, like what is it? The hot dog meme? The guy in the hot dog costume? We're all looking for the guy who did this. Like, come on now. Like, LeBron showed up. At least he was scoring. But the defense continues to be absolutely atrocious. They have no answers. And Hayes, I do not know if we've asked this about different teams, right? Like the Bucks pulled out of their slide. The Sixers are starting to pull out of their slide. I don't know if the Lakers can pull out of this because LeBron is at a point in his career where you just can't rely on him as much as they are. And the other guy had a great start to the season and now has been MIA for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, the Lakers don't feel like a team right now that they're going to change this. Like this almost seems like it's inherent of the roster and almost like they overachieved kind of early, which has happened with teams before. So, you know, overall, like I look at this Lakers team and I'm just like, I kind of expected this at the beginning of the season. And then with the way that they kind of started off and they had that losing streak and then they came back and LeBron was going through that triple double run that he was going on, it kind of made me change my initial thought. But this they're going to have to do something here. A change is going to be needed.
What's weird is like they're winning the D'Angelo Russell minutes. This is what I can't get. Like if you want me to actually look at the numbers, if you look at the hard data, like they're winning the D'Angelo Russell minutes. Do you know who has the worst on-court net rating of any player on the Lakers that actually gets minutes? It's LeBron. That's even like, okay, the stat stuff is one thing with him missing shots, but even when LeBron didn't have great statistical games, like you win his minutes, it's LeBron James. Doug, if you're losing the LeBron minutes, things get dark here very quickly.
And I don't know if that applied to this game. I mean, he had 29 points, 5 rebounds, and 8 assists. And so I think a lot of people would look at that and say, well, this particular loss isn't on him. But Locked On Lakers was pointing the finger, or at least putting the microscope on the other superstar that they had, Anthony Davis.
You can't have a conversation about what went wrong on Wednesday without talking about where Anthony Davis is right now. He had 5 of 9, 15 points against the Thunder, and we start talking like Anthony Davis got to do more. 12 points, 4 of 14 against Minnesota, 8 points, 3 of 14 against the Heat on Wednesday, which if you're keeping score at home means he is 7 for his last 28 from the floor that is 25%. He is really not playing well, and the assertiveness that was part of his game at the beginning of the season seems to have disappeared.
Okay, Hayes, when you watch Anthony Davis and you hear what they just said there about the assertiveness, do you say to yourself, that's a guy that has problems with his feet? I mean, he's had the plantar fasciitis, or a problem with his heart?
Can both be true? Because I think there's both. I think there are times where Anthony Davis doesn't have the heart to be competitive per his size, but he definitely has physical limitations there, like as far as injuries and things that have hurt him over his career. But Anthony Davis is one of those players where you're going to see a 10, 12 game stretch all the time where you're just like, why isn't he the top 5 player in this league? But there are some of those heart concerns, especially like at times where the Lakers aren't playing with leads and things like that. So I think both are true. I do think that over his career, the physical things have definitely harped him some and limited his aggressiveness. But I think overall, just Anthony Davis has that motor issue that kind of over the last couple of years maybe hasn't been as loud, but there's still a concern there.
Don't worry. Look, on December 8th, they're going to play the Portland Trailblazers, and AD is going to have 40, and we're going to have all of these comments about AD is a top 5 player of all time. AD is the best big man in the NBA and all this nonsense. This is the key with Anthony Davis. Doesn't want the hard stuff. That's been him. I'm not trying to sit here and spit hot takes like this is a morning show, but I'm sorry. You look at New Orleans, and he bails on them to go to the Lakers so that he gets this great spot where he doesn't have to be the guy, and LeBron's going to do everything. And now LeBron can't. He starts off the season and he's dominant. And then we talked about it then. I was like, well, show me the whole season. And here we are. When it gets hard, when it's Bam Adebayo, when it's Isaiah Hartenstein, no. But don't worry, because they're going to play Portland, and he's going to put up numbers, and then we're going to be right back here with Anthony Davis is back until it gets hard again. AD doesn't want to do the hard stuff. And I'm sorry, that's what it's going to take for you to win a championship when you're actually playing in full buildings.
Okay, so let's zoom out, or I guess maybe hop in a time machine and go back to the beginning of the season or in the offseason with the addition of J.J. Redick. There were some feel-goods around Bronny and LeBron at the start of the season. Do you think that there was a little bit of delusion going on amongst Lakers fans or even the wider NBA fan base in like a fairy tale ending for LeBron James and these Los Angeles Lakers figuring it out? Matt.
Look, the offense is still really good. Like, I'm not ready to bail on the season yet. I think they've got to pull out of this dive that they're on. Otherwise, it's going to get really tough. But I'm not willing to bail on him. I will say, look, you went to the Western Conference Finals, and then you came back with the same roster, and then you blamed everything on the coach. And we're seeing this now, like, hey, it's not the coach. Like, it just wasn't. Like, it wasn't Darvin Ham. It was very convenient to do that, but it just wasn't him. My question, Hayes, I got to ask you this. He has given the Lakers 7 years of his career. 7. That's the second most of any team, except for that's more than Miami. It's less than Cleveland, but the first 6 years in Miami, he's just learning how to win. In Cleveland, rather, he's just learning how to win. It is 1 year, one title in 7 years with the Los Angeles Lakers and their expectations and star power and ability to attract talent. Is that enough?
Yeah. Yes and no. Like, I mean, of course, I think when he went there, you expected more, and that's fine. But like, this isn't on LeBron. Like, they haven't attracted a lot of star talent, is what it comes down to. Not at the level that you thought they would once LeBron signed there. They've changed coaches so much there. Pelinka it's like 1 year he decides to be a good GM, then 2 years he takes off. So I'm not blaming all that on LeBron. But I mean, you can't help but to be disappointed when he went to LA. I think a lot of people thought, oh, they're probably going to win 3 titles while LeBron's there, and it just hasn't happened.
I would love it if you can let me know in the comments, audience, whether it's either here on youtube.com/LockedOnNBA, hit me on Twitter @HP Basketball. If he stays in Miami, how many titles does he win? Because I'll tell you, if he stayed in Miami, he's got 2 since he left Miami. He'd have more than 2 if he stayed with Miami.
Now, you said this wasn't a morning show, but that's a great morning show topic. The Lakers are on a 10-year cadence, 2010, 2020. I don't know that they have till 2030 with LeBron James. Also, they're running out of room for statues. I think they're going to put up 2 more here pretty quickly. So I don't know if that's going to happen. Also, there's been a lot of talk in the news around the Congress looking into UFOs, UAPs. So I don't think we can count out Monstars situation here with LeBron James and Anthony Davis. I'm just saying the truth is out there. All right, coming up, are the Nuggets addicted to Nikola? Should the Warriors go all in on a trade to get Steph and Dre one more ring? All that and ESPN's 25 under 25 next on Locked On NBA. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by Chime. Have you ever hit that moment when you knew it was time to get serious about your finances? Maybe it was saving up for that dream trip, paying off a credit card debt, or just getting your financial life in order. That's where Chime comes in. With no monthly fees, no maintenance charges, and fee-free overdraft up to $200. Chime has you covered for those uh-oh moments, whether it's withdrawing cash from over 50,000 fee-free ATMs or getting paid up to 2 days early with direct deposit. Chime gives you the tools to make progress. Need a little help? Friends can even give you a boost to temporarily increase your overdraft limit, and when they do, you can return the favor. To date, Chime members have been spotted over $30 billion. Ready to make your fall finances greener? Open a Chime account in just 2 minutes. It's all it takes, 2 minutes at chime.com/NBA. That's chime.com/NBA. Chime feels like progress. Banking services and debit card provided by the Bancorp Bank N.A. or Stride Bank N.A., members FDIC. SpotMe eligibility requirements and overdraft limits apply. Booster available to eligible Chime members enrolled in SpotMe and are subject to monthly limits. Terms and conditions apply. Go to chime.com/disclosures for details. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Your favorite NBA team has a free and daily newsletter. Go to LockedOnDaily.com, search for your team, subscribe, and stay up to date with local expert analysis and amazing writing from Katie Heindel, Mike Shearer, and Locked On Fantasy Basketball tips from Josh Lloyd. As Nikola Jokic continues to deliver MVP-level performances night after night after night, questions about the Denver Nuggets' reliance on their superstar are louder than ever, including from Ryan Blackburn, co-host with Matt Moore of Locked On Nuggets.
The burden that he is bearing is fully on his shoulders. Now you've got your main running mate in Jamal Murray, who just has not been there from a scoring perspective for the entire season. And I think that Mike, I just don't see an actual leap there in terms of Jokic's desire and willingness to want to involve him more on a consistent basis because he trusts him so very much. I still haven't seen enough signs that the bench unit that doesn't include Jokic is actually ever going to be anything good, like including Russell Westbrook, who just like he plays really, really well with Jokic, and I appreciate him for doing that. But the minutes without Jokic on the floor, Russell Westbrook is still negative. And that's everybody. That's not him. That's not his responsibility. He's a minimum contract guy. It should be on Murray. It should be on Porter. It should be on AG.
Matt, are we in a Nikola Jokic may win MVP by a landslide, but at what cost situation, or can Denver find an equilibrium with the current roster that they have?
No. And the reason that he won't win MVP is because they're not going to win enough games. I think this Nuggets team is good. I think this Nuggets team might have the potential. If they can figure out some sort of trade, which this is where the Nuggets are at. They have to start evaluating, do we need to trade Michael Porter Jr.? Because they can't trade Jamal Murray because they just gave him the extension. They're not going to trade Aaron Gordon. He's their actual second best player. So it comes down to Michael Porter Jr., who they're going to have to pay in another year. If you can find a team that will take him on, that is willing to be like, we think that he can really help us, you can get multiple role players, and that might be able to lift up your bench unit and improve the overall quality of the team, especially on the defensive end. The issue with that is Porter's had 3 back surgeries, and you're going to have to get somebody to be like, yeah, no, this looks fine when they get the medical report. And that's going to be a hard sell. It just is. It's just going to be a hard sell. The Nuggets are very confident in Michael Porter Jr.'s health over the next 5 to 6 seasons. But I think most teams are going to be very skittish about that. There are no good options for how Denver is currently constructed for them to get to where they want to go as a championship contender.
Denver is going to have to do something here. I agree with Matt that they just don't have it. Like, Jokic is so important. If they didn't have Jokic, this team would be what would you say, Matt? Probably a sub-play-in team. Do they make the play-in without Jokic?
Oh, see, that's tough. The problem that you get into with that real quick is just like, I don't know this team struggles with how much they depend on playing through Jokic. Like they literally don't know how to play without him. And so I just kind of wonder if he wasn't around, if they would just look more like a normal team and just be like, yeah, they got some guys. They're pretty average. But having Jokic in some way makes it worse when he's not there. That's my kind of short-term point. Anyway, go on.
I get what you're saying. He's the ultimate crutch for this team is basically what you're saying. I can understand where you're coming from there. Jokic is so special, but like at the same time, I can understand why relying on a player like Jokic, because what he does, nobody else in the league can replicate at the level and the way that which he does it. But you need something more. And I love the match that Aaron Gordon is actually their second best player, because I completely agree with it. I think that's been the way for a while that people just don't talk about it nearly enough.
They play the Cleveland Cavaliers tonight. Interesting contrast between two teams there. Denver reliant on their superstar. Cleveland, they have a lot of guys that they can go to in different situations and have this season, including some key contributions from their bench. So make sure you are checking out Locked On NBA Game Time on this feed. They'll be recapping this game afterwards tonight. Let's move on to the Golden State Warriors, who are facing a crossroads right now. Should they pursue a trade? Very similar to the conversation we just had with Denver, to add a high-impact starter or maybe bolster their struggling bench. Locked On Warriors evaluated a number of options, but they kept getting caught up on the costs.
In a Warriors uniform, is that something that moves the needle at all for you?
I don't think so, because I mean, look, LaVine, if you bring him in, the amount of contract matching that we're going to need to do to make that deal happen, you're going to be stuck with a roster that I know two guys that'll still be on the team, Steph and Draymond. But after that, I don't know who we're going to be calling up from Santa Cruz to help fill in the gaps in the roster. Let's not pay for the sins of Chicago and overpaying him.
All right, let's put it this way. If you're looking at $54 million, you're talking nearly, I think Wiggins is at 26. That gets you about halfway there. DeAnthony Melton's expiring contract. That gets you about $20 million away. Looney, GP2, Moody. I mean, you're throwing a king's ransom to get yourself Zach LaVine, if that's the case. That's the strange thing about the NBA compared to other leagues. There's no just magic CMC trades out there where it's like, hey, the Panthers don't want Christian McCaffrey. Let's go gobble him up.
Okay, so they had a little bit of a shot at the Chicago Bulls there, not wanting to pay for the sin. So I thought in the fairness doctrine, I just wanted to throw a little Panthers dig in there for me as well, Hayes. But some interesting questions that this clip brings up. Let's get to just sort of the basic one first, and then we'll dig a little deeper. Should the Warriors look at a new number 2 or number 3 for Steph, or do they need to bolster the bench when you look at this team, Matt?
So I think the big problem is they've got this question of like how to bridge, right? Is you can't just take a guy that helps you win now, because Steph and Draymond are going to age out over the next 2 to 3 seasons. So you got to have somebody who can help you long-term, or is such a short-term contract that it gives you the flexibility to pursue guys in free agency. And like, that's going to be like the hard part, especially with free agency being kind of less used by players nowadays. You can't go for a Jimmy Butler. Like, that's not going to work. You can't have another guy who's going to be unavailable. You can't have a lot of these other guys. I do have an idea. Hear me out. Hear me out. Ben Simmons. Okay.
Whoa.
Okay. I know this sounds insane because he's been, awful, but healthier, had a pretty good game last night. He fills up the box score, versatile defender, can run the point. Think of it like Sean Livingston, right? Sean Livingston had all those health injuries, highly touted prospect, came to the Warriors and had a really good career. That's $41 million expiring. You can use the Wiggins contract. The Nets will probably take it because that's still an upgrade in value. You get to buy low on him. You need Wiggins, Kyle Anderson, and DeAnthony Melton on a 1-year deal when he is out for the season. He's eligible to be traded on December 15th. So you trade Kyle Anderson and short-term deals, or Wiggins, right? And you get back. If Simmons works out, awesome. If Simmons doesn't work out, you clear that cap space, and with a few more moves, maybe you can get into a conversation about actually making a move this summer if you can find a way to move off the rest of their stuff on your cap. What do you think about Ben Simmons as a emergency option here, Hayes? I'm trying to think outside the box.
Can Ben Simmons be an emergency for anything if you want? I don't like it. It's Ben Simmons. Like I know. Ben Simmons is an emergency. He's an emergency for every, like anybody who tries to root for a team. Like, I get what you're getting at, and it's sound, and I think it's well thought out in what you put here. But like, I just would feel so concerned trying to bet on anything in regards to having Ben Simmons. Like, he may wake up tomorrow and decide he doesn't want to play basketball anymore.
Yeah.
That's a serious possibility.
Like, do you want Ben Simmons or Andrew Wiggins is like a very serious question. And I think most Warriors fans would be like, I'd rather have Wiggins. And that tells you kind of like where we're at with Simmons. But like this does showcase like the problems here. You're not going to be able to trade the assets that you have, even if you wanted to, for Jimmy Butler, nor should you. Like Zach LaVine doesn't fix the problems like Locked On Warriors talks about, and the contracts don't match up. Like there is just not a lot of good options here unless you find somebody. What you really have to hope for if you're the Warriors fans is you just have to hope for the Bucks that they will slide off of the map into the abyss, and Giannis demands to trade to Golden State. That's the only real way that I can see them getting where they need to go.
A Giannis golden parachute. I want to go back to Ben Simmons for a second. There is a Substack called the F5, and they came up with a term called incense, which is guards involuntarily defended by centers, where another team says, all right, we're just going to put our center on you because we're absolutely not afraid of you shooting. And they ranked these players by the percentage of minutes that these guards were guarded by centers. Ben Simmons, 42.9% of his minutes. That's the highest in the league. Second highest is Kyle Anderson with the Golden State Warriors at 19%. 42.9%, 19%. That is nuts. Very quick question on the conversation that we heard from Locked On Warriors. They're racking their brains trying to figure out how to make the contracts work, how to work towards the future versus competing now. Is this a sign to you, Matt, that whatever the league and the owners wanted to do with the CBA, and specifically a lot of that I feel like came from the Warriors paying all of their players, it's working, right? Whatever they intended, it's working.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, is it's just impossible to have these top-heavy teams. You just can't do it, and the Warriors, I think, have probably, if DeAnthony Melton hadn't gotten hurt, like they really were looking pretty great. And, they might still wind up as a very good team in the West. But, Hayes, I just feel like it's impossible for you to be top-heavy. And that's what the owners wanted, is they want it to be like one star and a bunch of role players and keep costs down. And that means that the second stars are going to make substantially less. Like, this is not going to hurt the top guys, but you're not going to see Draymond getting his deal anymore in the new CBA. Because if you're looking at the contracts, that to me is the one that you wish was smaller, is Draymond's.
Yeah, I think it's going to put a prioritization, of course, on drafting well. I think the new CBA and those rules are going to do that. But the top heavy rosters, it doesn't work. It's never really worked. Like, let's be clear, there have been some teams to make it work, but like you still need bench guys, you still need depth, like you still need all those things. And so it's going to be interesting to see how teams like the Warriors or any other team really builds their team going forward, because It's not going to be super teams anymore unless you're just lucky and draft all your players anymore.
That's going to be teams like the Celtics. Locked On Celtics doing a lot of talk right now about what the bench is able to contribute there in Boston. Okay, Hayes, we talked earlier in the show about what you wanted for your birthday, but I feel like you're in the giving mood. You want to give Zach LaVine to another team. You like to give Vucevic to another team. So maybe that's what we'll get for your birthday.
I don't want to give them away for nothing, but it looks like the writing may be on the wall there, to be honest with you. Like the Bulls at this point, I think, as this season goes on, like while Vooch and LaVine are having great seasons individually, we're still on pace to win like 31 games. It's hard to keep $65 million of salary when you're on pace to win that amount of games.
All right, coming up, let's keep the future talk going. ESPN released their 25 players under 25 ranking, and a big omission rankled one of our Locked On hosts. I'll ask Matt and Hayes for their biggest snubs and surprises next. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game and you're not too burned by the Carolina Panthers giving away CMC for nothing, I'm totally not bitter about it. You can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you are going to get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. More Locked On NBA ahead. Okay, so ESPN releases their 25 under 25 rankings. I thought they only did this in the offseason. They're giving us, to talk about gifts, they're giving us talking heads a gift here with a little in-season ranking. But it wasn't a gift to the Locked On Grizzlies podcast, who were particularly upset about an omission from their team. Let's take a listen to that.
And has forgotten that GG Jackson exists. No GG Jackson, a guy that was on the all-rookie team literally just 7 months or so ago. You're telling me that not one Grizzlies player, specifically a guy that was on the all-rookie team as a teenager, dude should have been in his freshman year of college.
You know he wasn't even on the other receiving votes, right? They put a list of players of other. I shouldn't have told you that.
Others receiving votes? You're kidding. It's ridiculous. GG Jackson is obviously one of the top 25 players under the age of 25 in the NBA. And this list is absurd, and I want you to also be mad at it with me.
All right, that's a challenge given. I don't know if it's going to be a challenge accepted. Let's find out. Hayes, are you mad at this list? Did they get anything egregiously wrong? What did they get most right? What did they get most wrong on this list?
I mean, most of the list is right, but I'm sorry, I got to react to that clip for a second. GG Jackson has played a total of 48 games in his NBA career so far. Is he good? Yes. Is he promising? Yes. But 48 games? Come on. Let's stop acting like it's some egregious thing that he's left off and he's played a total. How about you tell him to get on the court? Maybe they forgot who GG Jackson was because he hasn't been on the court. How about that? Get him on the court. Then let's make a case for him being on the list.
Also, he played 48 games for an injury wrecked team that was basically just punching the clock last year. Like, I'm a Grizzlies guy, and even I'm like, come on, Joe. Chill out. Look at the names on this list. Like, look at the others receiving votes. Jaden Ivey, Benedict Mathurin, Trey Murphy, Cam Thomas. Those guys have a better case. But, Doug, I'll tell you what I'm most mad about. I'm mad that Jalen Green is 20 on this list. The guys behind him are Tyler Hero, Amin Thompson, Dyson Daniels, Tari Eason, and Bilal Coulibaly. GMs around this league would rather have any of those guys than Jalen Green. There is zero chance that they would rather have Jalen Green than those other guys. Like, Jalen got this big contract, which was a disastrous decision. He still sticks out like a sore thumb. You're marveling at all these great guys on the Rockets, and then you're like, oh, and then there's Jalen Green, who, unless it's a terrible team, is 3-14. Okay.
Isn't he shooting like 35% on the season so far, too?
Awful. How about this one? Zion Williamson is ahead of Jalen Suggs and Derek Lively. I get it. Zion's a beast. Come on. Do we really think that Zion's going to play? Like, who's playing more games over the next 2 seasons than Jalen Suggs, Derek Lively, or Jalen Johnson, who's behind him? Those are reprehensible as well. And I will mention Scotty Barnes and Cade Cunningham need to be ahead of Alperen Şengün. I think Şengün's really good. I think he's awesome. He belongs on this list. He does not belong above Cade Cunningham. He does not belong above Scotty Barnes.
How about the Orlando Magic? Paolo Banchero, third on this list. By the way, topping this list, Victor Wembanyama, then Anthony Edwards. Third is Paolo. Fourth is Franz. I mean, if you're a Magic fan, your team's already, I mean, they've got some issues with high-scoring teams and being able to stop those teams. But they're still, the record's pretty good. And then you've got these two young stars on the roster. That's got to excite you as a fan, right?
I mean, those two, and Suggs is on this list. I'll say Franz is also on here, like, because Paolo's been out and he's putting up great numbers. And I think Franz is awesome. But the reality is that Franz hasn't been as good next to Paolo. So he probably slides down this list when Paolo gets back. We will look at this and be like, well, you can't really have Franz that high once Paolo gets back.
Hayes, when you look at this list in its entirety, and even taking into account some of the others receiving votes, if you want to throw GG Jackson in there, you can. But when you look at this list, how does it make you feel about the future of the league in a, post LeBron, post all these players that we keep talking about that either can't stay on the floor or seem to be fading into the background? How do you feel about the future of the league when you look at this list?
I feel really good about the future league. I like a lot of the young talent we have, and I do think we have a lot of players that can turn into stars. The question isn't about this list or the players. The question is that, is the NBA ever going to get off of promoting the old guard and start promoting some of these young players and making them the young stars that they can be, because they're doing it on the court? Like, are there questions about all these guys respectively? Yes, but I feel really good about the place where the team is and then where the league is. And keep in mind, we have a whole nother crop of potential young stars coming in this draft, which is one of the deepest drafts in the last handful of years as well. Like, there's a lot of really good young talent in this league and really good talent that can play multiple positions. Here's what I got. I have to say this. young guys, I know you'll never hear this, but just start actually playing like some simple basketball again. Like everything doesn't have to be 3-pointers again. Like just do some of the simple things that are supposed to make basketball. Outside of that, I like a lot of the young talent on this list. I love it.
Don't listen to him. Keep shooting threes. You're going to win more games. Look at the Boston Celtics. Don't listen to him. You want to win? If you want to win, you can do that. If you want to be DeMar DeRozan, you listen to Hayes. Look, Victor's going to be the guy, and that's great. I will say, like, the future of this league for the next 10 years is Victor and Luka. The problem with this list is, do you see Paolo Banchero being elite, like top level, megastar on like host? How many of these guys are going to host SNL? I think is like a good question, right? Like, is Anthony Edwards ever going to host SNL? Is Franz Wagner ever going to host SNL?
Jared McCain might. I feel like he's got the best chance at this point.
If it's on TikTok, Jared McCain will host SNL. But like that kind of superstardom, you have to be able to reach to, and I'm not sure they're going to get to. Now, I'll love the NBA regardless because these players are awesome, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and I want it to be a league of parity. But the history of the league has been one guy dominant. And I'm not sure that we have that right now, and I'm curious if we're going to get it.
And also Tyrese Halliburton, 6th on this list, which feels like maybe they did fill out this list preseason and they just forgot. Maybe instead of forgetting Gigi Jackson, maybe they just forgot to release this because he's been struggling. The Pacers have been struggling. We're going to talk tomorrow about if it's panic time for the Pacers. And news just dropped that Chris Middleton is due to make his return to the Milwaukee Bucks lineup on Friday. So we'll talk about that tomorrow as well. If you like what you heard today, make sure you subscribe to Locked On NBA wherever you get podcasts. That includes YouTube. Thanks so much for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Enjoy tonight's action. Be kind to each other. And we're going to see you right back here on Fridays, Locked On NBA.
Happy birthday.